Okay, look. Before you say anything, because I have a suspicion that a lot of you are like, really, Tekking? You're doing a video on the heal fruit now? Of all times? Look, couple of weeks ago, I was doing a live stream and someone was like, hey, you haven't made a video on Mansherry's Chiyu Chiyu no Mi, the heal fruit. And I thought for a moment, I'm like, yeah, you're right, I never have. So I have a little folder I keep on my desktop. It's my current project folder. Basically, I come up with an idea, I make a folder, I throw it in there, and whenever I'm like, what am I going to talk about today? I pull up that folder. Sometimes the projects just go in there to die. There's been in some projects. Actually, let's open the old project folder right now. Let's see all the stuff I have in there. We got, let's see, we got a gentle criminal video for My Hero Academia. That is going to be happening at some point. I'm just gonna wait until the arc finishes up, though. Hawk's video, also My Hero Academia. Heaven's Arena from Hunter x Hunter. That's one that might not see the light of day. Nolan's video has been in there for like 3 years. At some point, I'll get to Nolan. And then there's a Speed of Sound Sonic one. There's a One Punch Man video in there, too. But then there's the Heal fruit. So I threw that in there, and I was looking through my project folder today, and I was like, yeah, we can talk about the Heal fruit. It might be a smidge awkward, but you know what? We can talk about that. All right. So, yeah. Also, I'm extraordinarily thankful for being the level of weeb that I am, because I'm digging around in my prop trunk, and I bought this at I bought this the first time I went to Techo in 2015, so like 5 years ago, and I'm like, oh yeah, who's laughing now, right? Who's laughing now? And, you know, the gloves and everything I had from, like, a video I did years ago, so I'm like, ha ha ha, I am prepared! So right out of the gate, it's actually a very interesting fruit, being one of the very few ones that really have no combat capabilities, as in the user themselves can't really use the fruit to lay the beat down on people. Although, I mean, hey, Mansherry, she might be tiny, but we know the dwarves are really, really strong in One Piece. Like, you get a tail smack from those guys, you are going down. So in theory, Mansherry might be able to combine her heal powers with combat, just in a different, like, roundabout way. Like, she shows up and then she's like all adorable and someone's like, oh, you're so cute, and then boom, she tail smashes somebody into the ground and like breaks their jaw, and she's like, oh, you're not done yet, and uses her healing powers to bring them, oh, you healed me, but why did you, boom, and then just proceeds to beat them down again. So if you think about it that way, Mansherry's ability is absolutely terrifying, right? Another fruit like that is Bello Betty's Pump fruit, you know, or the Cheer fruit, however you want to, you know, translate it out. It just seems to invigorate other people, give them like an adrenaline boost and like get their muscles bulging, and then they can, you know, fight for themselves, all right? Maybe, you know, Bello Betty might be able to use the effects of the fruit on herself. We've just never seen her do that yet. There's very few fruits like that are like purely support, but it seems like Bello Betty and Mansherry's are definitely in that regard. You need the healer in the party. You know what? You can make it interesting. Like I said, I just threw that whole thing out there with the attack and then heal and then attack and then heal. You know, support characters are actually really fun if you know how to play them right? Am I the only one here? I mean, come on now. All right, so Mansherry first appeared in Dressrosa. Took forever for us to see her, too. It was addressed relatively early on by Leo and the other Tontatas, like, our princess has been captured by the evil flamingo! So we have to go and, you know, rescue her and everything. We don't see her until much later. Eventually, she is revealed, and the effects of her ability are actually being utilized by the Doflamingo family. She was actually captured by them in order to heal their own ranks. So all of the minions that got defeated by, like, the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, like Mach Vice and Derringer and everybody, Jola was actually grabbing Mansherry and about to use her powers by force in order to heal them and bring them back to the battle, which is something that definitely would not have boded well for the remainder of the you know, Grand Fleet, because most of them, like Hyrudine, for instance, Hyrudine managed to take out Mach Vice, but he also kind of got dropped at the same time. You know, Sai wasn't looking that great, you know, Hakuba and Cavendish, that little duality there is rather unstable, so it's probably best if they stay down, right? So how exactly does Mansherry's ability work? I'm gonna take this hat off now because it just keeps screeching up a little bit more. All right, so how exactly does it work? I don't know why, but her power manifests in two distinctive ways. And these, like, if you don't know the character, if you haven't read the story, this is gonna sound random as hell to you, alright? How her power works, okay? The first way her power manifests is in the form of tears. Okay, so she cries on people, and then they are healed of all of their injuries or ailments. We actually don't know if the fruit can, heal you of disease. Something else that might be kind of topical. We've never seen that yet. I would assume, considering it's the devil fruit completely predicated on healing, it's the Chiyu no Mi. Chiyu just means to heal in Japanese. I would assume it can heal diseases as well. Maybe if you get like a really, really crazy chronic disease, maybe something like the amber lead that Law had, maybe something like that would be kind of difficult to heal. But in terms of like a common cold or something like that, I would imagine that the heal fruit would be able to do something with that, right? You'd be able to fix it up, really. Even though, well, granted, there's no cure for the common cold in our world because it always changes, but you know what I mean. As long as it's not like some serious, like, genetic illness, I'm sure it could probably make it work, okay? But we haven't seen it yet, okay? Maybe we will at some point. So that's one way. But the point is, her power is tears. Now, the problem with that is twofold. Number one, it seems rather inconvenient to have to cry every single time you want to activate your power. You know, Mansherry seems to be weepy all the time a little bit, which is actually kind of sad, but hey, okay, whatever. That's what's one problem. But the other problem is people tend to cry when they're in states of extreme pain. And so because of that, all the Doflamingo pirates have to do to exploit Mansherry's ability is just to grab her and then just, like, pinch her or, like, poke her with a needle or just something to get some pain into her, and then she'll start to cry because she's in pain, and then the tears fall, and she can't turn those off. She can't be like, oh no, these are normal pain tears, not the healing pain tears. No, all of her tears are equal, whether she wants to heal people or not. So that's kind of a major downside of the fruit, where someone can force the ability out of them. Like, we've seen this before with other devil fruits. We've even seen this with Luffy's devil fruit. When Luffy was in that pool at Arlong Park and he was unconscious, he had, not willingly used his Gumu Gumu powers, but Nojiko could still grab his head and, like, stretch his neck outside of the pool. So in that case, devil fruit powers can be activated by a third party, even if the user, does not, consent to the being used that way. It just seems like a weird way to, express your abilities. But that's not anything to the other way that her ability is expressed. Beyond tears, dandelions. Yeah, you're like, dandelions, like the flower? Like, yeah, like the flower. It's a little bit too early for dandelions. They are, like, everywhere. You can give it about a month or so, there'll be dandelions, like, covering, like, 90% of my yard. So I couldn't bring anything to show you, but yeah, you all know what dandelions look like, right? Yeah. The dandelions. Like, okay, so tears and dandelions. That's what we got. So her ability here is Chiyu Popo, which it just means, like, dandelixirs, or, however translation, combining dandelion and elixir, dandelion and heal, because once again, Chiyu, heal. So what she does here is that she creates a bunch of dandelions. She can just, like, spawn them out of her hands and just create them whenever she wants, and then sends them fluttering around. Now, the advantage here is it covers a much wider range, because otherwise, she literally has to stand over the person she wants to heal and be like, my healing tears will bring you back to life. Boink. Okay, next patient. My healing tears will bring you back to life. Okay, next. And you have to keep going down the assembly line that way, but the trade-off is, when it's a direct administration of her tears, the person is healed, and it seems to have, like, no real negative side effects, honestly. The dandelixirs, the Chiyupopos, cover a wide range, and anybody that comes in contact with just one of these heals their wound. The problem is, it's temporary, and it only lasts about 4 minutes. Now, here's where we get into some confusing aspects of this ability, okay? So what she does is the birdcage is closing in, everyone's freaking out. Like, oh no, birdcage, we're all gonna die! We're all gonna get diced! Where's Buggy the Clown when you need him, right? So Mansherry activates her dandelions and sends them out to the members of the Grand Fleet that were already defeated. And so it revives them, to get them back up on their feet long enough for them to help push back the birdcage a little bit before the power runs out and they all fall back down. Now, it seems to be stated that when the ability, loses its effect, the person is no longer healed. The thing that I'm a little bit confused by is, like, let's take Hyrudine, for example. Hyrudine, giant guy, he fought against Machweiss. He broke a bunch of his bones in order to defeat Machweiss. He broke bones in his arm, his legs, his teeth popped out, he's bleeding, muscles are torn, bruises all over his body, and boom, he was down, okay? And so these little tiny just healing dandelions, maybe you had to use a couple more for him because he's a giant, but whatever. These little dandelions just come in contact with him. He's like, oh, I have returned. So is his broken bones healed? Are his muscles repaired? And he gets back up and he's like, I am back. Because he's walking around and he's like pushing back the bird cage, you know, and it's like, if his bones are broken, you wouldn't be able to do that, bro. But then after 4 minutes are over, does his bones go back to being broken they already were? I mean, that's kind of a crappy ability if we're being straight up. I mean, that's like, okay, couple of weeks ago, I was cutting onions, I was making dinner, and I was using this, like, ridiculously sharp knife, like the sharpest one I own. It's a great knife. It's the kind of knife that can, like, slice through boot leather if you really wanted to. Anyway, I was an idiot. It was my fault. I wasn't paying attention. I was talking to somebody, and I accidentally sliced my middle finger. Okay, now I mean, that knife was sharp enough to probably slop off the tip of my finger if I really got in there, but luckily I didn't. So, it was a deep cut, though, and it was bleeding for about an hour, and it wasn't stopping, so we had to go to the doctor, and I had to get all glued up and patched up and everything like that. So let me ask the question, though, that if Mansherry was there and, you know, she used her little dandelions on my finger, you know, would the wound, like, magically heal up? And, like, it'd stop bleeding and the wound would just heal back up and be like, oh, thank you, Mansherry. Well, back to what I was doing earlier. And then 4 minutes later, the wound just rips back open again and I start bleeding. Like, oh, God, no! Like, I'm just confused on the practicality here, because it does even state on the wiki, like, the person will go back to the way they were before the dandelions came in contact. Like, if it was a disease, I can understand it. Like, if you had, like, I don't know, like, joint pain or, like, a really bad headache or something, so you're basically just treating the fruit like, here, have some Tylenol. You know, here are the dandelions. They're basically like a Tylenol. You take one of the dandelions and your headache goes away and your joint pain goes away and you can move around and stuff, and then after a predetermined amount of time, you go back to feeling the symptoms. It's just masking the symptoms. But healing broken bones and, like, gaping flesh wounds and stuff, and then going back to the way it was, you know, not very practical. So I like to think that her dandelions may very well just, you know, diminish the pain, basically, like, just, you know, get rid of the pain altogether so you can't even feel the pain anymore, and it might recover you to, like, the bare minimum. But even when you get to that bare minimum, you can't just be stressing your body out as much. Like, for example, like, has anyone ever broken a bone out there in my audience? I've only broken one. I broke my my little finger. Well, actually, I didn't break it. Okay, we're just talking about a bunch of injuries that we're all getting in today. Share one of your injuries in the comments below, and you might get a fan letter from Barry himself. I don't know. Okay, so when I was in middle school, we were playing a game that involved footballs in the gym. It wasn't actual football. It was a game that just involved football. It was called Gator Ball. I don't know if you've ever played it or if it was just something my gym coach came up with. But anyway, so the game was over, and I went to go pick up the football to, like, reset the game. And this other kid walked over and he went to go kick the ball at the same time I went to go pick it up. And the timing of this was highly suspect for it to be an accident. Maybe it was, I'm just saying. And as soon as I was picking up the ball like this, he, you know, kicked my finger and my little finger, and yeah, it got broken. And no one believed me either. The rest of the day, I'm like, you know, man, this really hurts, and I can't bend my finger. He's like, you probably just sprained it. It's probably just stove. Not a big deal. All my classmates were like, not a big deal. So I'm like, I don't know, man. So I go home and I tell my dad, and I'm like, Dad, I think this is broken. And he's like, you probably just stoved it, but let's go to the doctor. I'm like, whatever. We get to the doctor. The doctor looks at it, and he's like, nah, you probably just stoved it, but we'll get an x-ray anyway. And I still remember, to this day, we're in the waiting room waiting for the x-rays to come back. Doctor comes back, looking at the x-rays, and he's like, yeah, we got a break. And I'm like, oh, no shit, doc, you don't tell me. It's just, I've had this for 9 hours, and I can barely move my finger. Weird coinkydink, isn't it? So, yeah, I had to get, like, a little thing on my finger and, like, splint and everything like that. But that's the only time I've ever broken a finger, okay? So, in regards to that, I don't know where I was going with this. Something with broken bones. Hold on a sec. Oh, okay. I know where I was going. Okay. I get on tangents so much. Okay. What I'm basically saying is, even after you recover from a broken bone, you can't just immediately go back to strenuous activity. Like, if you're lifting weights for a living, if you're like a bodybuilder, if you're doing deadlifts, and let's say you get into some kind of accident and you break your right arm and it has to be in a cast for several weeks, as soon as you get that cast off, you can't just go back to doing the exact same thing you were doing, like, the day you get the cast off, okay? So, that's probably maybe something similar to the Chiyu-Popos, the Dandelions. Like, Hyrudine's, like, leg and his arm, like, got just barely back to the point where they would be all right for him to walk on, but then he immediately goes to, like, exerting himself and, like, pushing on the barrier back on the, the bird cage, and he's like, Gadoo! Ah, crap! It might be something like that, and then it might also just be an extreme, like, anesthetic pain reliever kind of thing, where they can't feel pain, they get an adrenaline boost to get them up and moving, but after 4 minutes, the pain hits you like a wave, and it's like, oh man, my bones are really sore. So that's the best the Dandelions can do. She also has an ability called Kenpopo, and this was an ability that she actually used more of like a blood donation service. It uses the kanji for donation or present, and she used this with the Marines. Basically, what she can do is she can take like the life essence from somebody else and have dandelions bloom, and then she can take them and then she can administer them to other people that really need it. So basically transferring like the life energy from Sengoku or Osuru and giving the like life energy to the citizens of Dressrosa that actually need it in order to expedite their healing. It kind of does, I guess, work similar to like a Recovery Girl from My Hero Academia, rather than instead of kissing, it's tears. Kind of both awkward ways to administer this. But with Recovery Girl from My Hero, it's more of like she's not magically healing your wounds. What she's actually doing is just using your stamina to like speed up the process. So maybe it's something similar to that with the Dandelions also. Like, you get back up in a moment, you feel great, but then it's like, oh man, I felt like I haven't slept in like 3 days straight, because it's like all that, stamina got used up to heal your injuries, right? Now, like I said, all of this seems to be bypassed relatively when she directly heals somebody, when she directly, either cries on someone or uses her tears. She can also use her tears in conjunction with her watering can, so she can actually cry into like a pool of, her tears of the water and put it in a watering can and just heal people that way. So, yeah, next time you go into a hospital, and if you do not see a doctor walking around with a watering can, I don't know what medical school they went to, right? If you see a doctor with a watering can, they know what's up. That's the proper way to heal them. Oh, broken leg? All right, well, hold on a second here. I got my trusty first aid watering can, and they just, doctor, what's that going to... Oh, wow, it worked. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's the future of medicine right there. Watering cans, okay? Honestly, I'm a little curious because her ability involves, like, a substance that she creates. I'm curious, like, could you, take a vial or some kind of container and, like, collect her tears, and then, like, just stop it up and then just have, like, heal water whenever you wanted? Could you necessarily do... I guess you couldn't, because the Doflamingo family had her in their possession for, like, a long time, using her powers to recover people. So you'd figure, like, they would be smart enough to, like, hey, I wonder if we could just steal her tears and then give them to people and see if that would heal. So maybe it has to, like, maybe there's a time limit, maybe her tears become inert after a while, or she has to directly cry on somebody in order to make it happen, or she has to herself use the watering can or the pool of, in order to make that work. There is a limit to how many times she can do it, though, so you can't even cheat the system. You can't even be like, all right, I'm going to use the dandelions for 4 minutes, and then at 3 minutes 59 seconds, you use another dandelion and another dandelion. It just keeps going. No, there's a set limit to how many times you can use them. It's kind of implied she can't use it more than once. I don't think they directly say I can't use the ability more than once. I think they say something more vague, like I can't keep using that ability over and over again. So maybe if it's like, if she uses the dandelions on somebody, it only lasts 2 minutes, and then 1 minute, and then 30 seconds, and it eventually has no effect at all. Maybe it might be something of that nature there. We've never seen her heal herself, but Leo implied that she could, so we're figuring that she probably can. And that's not, like I said, with Bello Betty's fruit, it's not a given that they might be able to use the ability of the support power on themselves. So, but it seems, at least with Leo, that Mansherry could heal herself if she really wanted to. She has a weird ability, and this seems to be something that was just kind of added in. It seems very unusual to include this ability, but she also does have the power to heal inanimate objects. I know, a little bit unusual. I mean, I understand it's the concept. The whole concept of healing is like implies a biological organism, does it not? Like when you say like you have a plank of wood that got broken in half, and you fit it back together with her power, you wouldn't call that healing, you would call it fixing. It would be it's not a living thing at that point, so it's a little bit unusual. And even more unusual is it was introduced in the same arc. Well, we know about Law's Oppie Oppie no Mi before that, but Law's Oppie Oppie no Mi was expanded a lot in Dressrosa, and we found out about the immortal surgery, the ageless surgery technique, where in exchange for his life, Law could give eternal youth to somebody. Kind of something similar to with Mansherry, where she can repair inanimate objects at the cost of her stamina and her life force. Now, I would imagine for a small object, like if you did break a plank of wood or you broke a vase in the kitchen or something, she could maybe use her powers and it would drain her and make her tired, but it would heal it relatively fine. However, they were talking about bringing back the entire Smile Factory. The Smile Factory had been completely destroyed, and Treble and Jola were both very, very confident that Mansherry would be able to repair it. You know, they weren't even worried. They were like, oh, the factory was destroyed. Oh, well, thank God we have Mansherry. We should be able to bring it back. So they were pretty damn sure that she could do that. So it might have been like a pretty large object like that, like the entire factory being brought back together, could very well end her own life. Of course, the Doflamingo family doesn't care about that. They just cared about getting their Smile production back, right? So kind of an unusual ability. Yeah, unusual considering it doesn't involve a living thing. It can bring other things back. Mansherry right now, well, she went to Reverie and she hung out with Shirahoshi there, the largest princess and the smallest princess in the world, so double the cute. They were hanging out there, and now I guess, you know, she went back to Dressrosa. You know, there was some issues with Vivi and everybody, but it seems like the Dressrosa group went back to where they were, so I think she's okay right now. I'm not sure if her ability is ever going to play a role again in the story, if she's ever, the Tontada crew ever decide, well, Leo's a member of the Grand Fleet, Mansherry's not technically a member of the pirate crew, but, you know, if it ever happens again where they like, oh, we have to go to Laugh-Tale to save our captain, Luffy, for this epic battle. Are you Tontatos with me? And all the other Tontatas, like Cub and everybody, are like, yes, Leo, we'll go with you. And Mansherry would be like, you know, Leo, if I want to, can I go with you guys? It's like, oh my God, Mansherry, you're always so needy and clingy. Fine, get on board. He's like, well, screw you too, Leo. I didn't want to go. You know, so I can imagine she could go, and that would actually be very, very useful with her healing power. Although, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, do the Straw Hats even need her power? Because they have milk. I'm not saying that as an exaggerating thing. Luffy got a tooth knocked out of his mouth by Sanji, and then later Katakuri. And it's implied that they just have to drink milk and they just grew a tooth back. And Oda even clarified, I was like, oh yeah, they have really weird bodies. I know he just did it as a joke, but it's like they do have unusual powers, and, you know, Brook was able to heal himself with the milk as well. So at that point, why do you even need the dandelions or the magical dwarf tears? You don't. You just drink milk. Like, Luffy's beaten down. He's like, oh God, Blackbeard's really giving me a what for? I'm really getting bushwhacked over here. Chopper milk. Make it extra D with the vitamin D. Glug, 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 glug. All right, Blackbeard, I'm back. I drank my milk. Here we go. And you don't even need the healing tears at that point. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video, most of which involved just stories about, you know, injuring yourself and breaking bones. But yeah, so have a good day, everyone. Stay safe in these trying times we live in. This will be Tekking signing out. Later.